Test.
I love how it's all foreshadowed.
Lucas, how are we doing sound-wise? Okay. It's fine, no worries. All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the length of time there, having some slight technical difficulties. So, the first thing I want to do today, I want to just go over some of the verses that were shared on the threads this week. Because the topic was gossip. It was gossip with a couple of different things in mind. How it has affected you, or would affect you, how it would affect this body, and how it affects those that are embroiled in it. So there's a couple of verses that were posted, and I just want to share those verses with everybody, because I think that it'll be good for you to have these as well. Proverbs 25:18 was shared. Now, I took these directly out of the messages, and I didn't, so I'm reading what was posted in the message from the verse, so it may not match exactly your translation, but it'll be pretty close. So Proverbs 25:18, telling a lie about others is as harmful as hitting them with an axe, wounding them with a sword, or shooting them with a sharp arrow. That's pretty graphic. Next week we'll have a graphic showing that exact thing. No, I'm just so I can really pound home how dangerous that is. Yes. Proverbs 20:19. Whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets, therefore do not associate with a simple blabber. Now we're going old school. Exodus 23:1. You must not pass along false rumors. You must not cooperate with evil people by lying on the witness stand. Psalms 50, verse 20. You sit around and you slander your brother, your own mother's son. Descriptive, of course, of basically the fool that we're talking about in this case. Personal favorite coming up, James 4:11. Don't speak evil against each other, dear brothers and sisters. If you criticize and judge each other, then you are criticizing and judging God's law. But your job is to obey the law, not to judge whether it applies to you. Luke chapter 6, verse 13. This is a classic, people. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Ephesians 4:29. Don't use foul or abusive language. Let everything you say be good and helpful, so that your words will be an encouragement to those that hear them. I particularly like this one because it's taking that verse in Ephesians 4:29, taking it out of how it's usually applied and applying it to gossip, which fits very, very aptly. Usually that verse is taken to mean don't swear, don't cuss. But it makes sense because gossiping is what? Foul and abusive language. Even if you don't utter a single curse word. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 28. A dishonest man spreads strife, and a whisperer separates close friends. Sounds like every sitcom I've ever watched. Proverbs 25:10. Others may accuse you of gossip, and you will never regain your good reputation. And one more, Psalms 41, verse 7. All who hate me whisper together about me, and they imagine the worst for me. So those were good verses to describe the phenomenon, the gossip phenomenon that we talked about. I, of course, read to you last week Proverbs 10:18. Hiding hatred makes you a liar. Slandering others makes you a fool. Proverbs 11:13. A gossip goes around telling secrets, but those who are trustworthy can keep a confidence. And Proverbs 16, verses 27 and 28. Scoundrels create trouble. Their words are a destructive blaze. A troublemaker plants seeds of strife. Gossip separates the best of friends. There's a couple more, but there's one thread that kind of ties all of those things together. And it comes down to the core of it all. What is the one thing that you can learn about somebody from the way that they talk? What is in their heart? You can clearly tell what is in their heart. I talked last week about how I knew that people at work didn't like me. Was it because they came out and said, "James, I don't like you"? No. I've only had one person do that, and I said, "Thank you for your honesty. I love you." He still hates me, but that's beside the point. You can tell, even if they sing praises to your name, if their heart is really into it. Even the best of liars cannot cover up everything. Someone with gossip in their heart cannot stop themselves from talking behind your back. And they're going to be overheard by someone that can't help but be honest with you. You will always find out what's going on because other people always come to you. And why do people always come to you? It's because of your heart. It's because of the words that come out of your mouth. It's so easy in this day and age to be trapped into that feeling, I want to belong. I want to participate. So easy to get swept up into the work gossip. They used to call it hang around the water cooler. We don't have a water cooler. But people still gossip. In fact, I would say the grapevine, particularly in my job, is better than the official communication. And that's sad. Every meeting that I go to, why do I have to be reminded that I'm not supposed to talk about what we talked about in the meeting with anybody? Because there's a commonality there. It's expected that people will talk about things that they're not supposed to talk about. It's expected that people will talk about you. It's expected that rumors will spread. I think it's a pretty sad state of being that it's an expectation that that's going to take place. Is that something that every community should have to deal with? That expectation that rumors will spread, that gossip will run strife? Is every relationship that we have like that? If that's the case, where can we feel secure in our relationships? How can we fully trust somebody if there's that expectation? That's the kind of damage. That's the kind of damage that could happen to this very community of faith that we have here. The inability to trust anybody. The inability to feel safe. The inability to share what's on your heart for fear that there'll be retribution. Complete and utter lack of trust. That comes from having a fool's heart. That comes from allowing that fool's heart to spread like a disease throughout our entire community. It takes one fool to start the fire. In contrast to the negative and harmful effects of the words spoken by a fool, the words of a person who is pursuing godly wisdom, it's a wonderful gift. Where the fool would tear down, would use abusive language, would beat you with their words, either in front of you or behind your back. Those that seek out wisdom, those that seek out true wisdom, are encouraging, are uplifting. They do unto others as they would have themselves done unto. They control their tongue. Just as these proverbs that I read last week and some today talk about the fool that causes destruction, that causes strife, they also talk about wisdom. Talks about the person that is wise. In fact, these proverbs are so bold as to say that even the foolish person can appear to be wise if they do what? Kumi o shite kudasai. Shut your mouth. Japanese just for John right there. Yes, exactly. So anybody outside with cameras, kumi o shite kudasai. I'm working here. The thing about a community that is born out of love of God is that it's born out of trust. Why is it born out of trust? What's an inherent characteristic of God? He's very trustworthy. Does he change from day to day? He's the same today, tomorrow, same as he's always been. Sorry, Mom, I like to paraphrase. He's trustworthy. Sorry. The passion's showing through. You always know. You always know who God is. And those that seek after true wisdom, those that seek after the fear of God, seek to be like God. Not some all-powerful being, but the attributes of God. They seek to reflect the relationship that is beamed onto them. Those that seek true wisdom cannot help but reflect trust and love. It's so blinding, people are turned away from it. That's a pretty powerful source. All of us have experienced burdens of anxieties, frustrations, the pains of life. While the words of a fool can add to our discouragement, the words of one who pursues the wisdom of God can bring you that encouragement. Proverbs 15:23. A man finds joy in giving an apt reply, and how good is a timely word. Proverbs 12:25. An anxious heart weighs a man down, but kind words cheer him up. Proverbs 10:11. The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life. I really only have one last thing to talk about. And it's actually not found in Proverbs. But it is a major contributing factor to community. It's found in James chapter 3, verses 1 through 12. Dear brothers and sisters, not many of you should become teachers in the church, for we who teach will be judged more strictly. Indeed, we all make many mistakes. For if we could control our tongues, we would be perfect and could also control ourselves in every other way. We can make a large horse go wherever we want by means of a small bit in its mouth. And a small rudder makes a huge ship turn wherever the pilot chooses to go, even though the winds are strong. In the same way, the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. The tongue is a flame of fire. It is a whole world of wickedness, corrupting your entire body. It can set your whole life on fire, for it is set on fire by hell itself. People can tame all kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, fish, but no one can tame the tongue. It is restless and evil, full of deadly poison. Sometimes it praises our Lord and Father, and sometimes it curses those who have been made in the image of God. And so blessing and cursing would pour out of the same mouth. Surely, my brothers and sisters, this is not right. Does a spring of water bubble out both fresh and bitter water? Does a fig tree produce olives, or grapevine produce figs? No. And you cannot draw fresh water from a salty spring. So we've been given 6 rapid-fire illustrations about the tongue in our speech. Bits in the mouths of a horse. Who's been horseback riding? Who believes horseback riding is evil? Horses are controlled by a little tiny metal piece that is inserted underneath their tongue. Those reins that you pull on are attached to that little tiny bit, and it irritates the horse the entirety of the time it's in there. And because you give a little tug like this and the irritation in the mouth, it goes where you point it to go. It controls the tongue. Rudders of ships. Anybody ever watch Supertanker? You watch the Discovery Channel and you watch, huge feats of engineering. Huge, gigantic ships. Ships that are bigger than most cities. Controlled by a small piece of metal attached to the back. In this case, most of them are attached to two now. And they have their own engines too. But they're still tiny compared to the mass of the ship. But where they point, that's where they go. And the pilots that forget that end up capsizing on the rocks near Greece. The tongue is like sparks for a forest fire. How do forest fires start? Lightning strikes, matches, cigarettes thrown out the window, campfires that all put out, and then there's the intentional. It's all started by a little bit of flame. It doesn't even have to be a flame. It could be that cigarette butt. It could be that one piece of coal that you didn't put out from your fire. Charred wood that's still burning, and the ember gets blown into something that's just waiting to go up. By the way, we need firewood for the retreat. Your tongue will not work. The smallest spark can set that forest to blaze. That's how I can stand before you and say that it takes one fool to tear our community apart. Poison to a body. It doesn't take, don't break the computer please. It doesn't take much for a venomous thing to sting you. It doesn't take a whole lot of poison. Consider the scorpion. Scorpion has on its tail just a small little barb. The largest scorpions are the least deadly to you. The smaller ones pack more of a punch venom-wise. I always found that fascinating. Apparently, concentration makes it more potent. They don't need it. They're like, what's up? But, all right. Tiny little thing, and it's all over. One bite from the correct spider, generally in Australia, will kill you. They have found the sting from a box jellyfish no bigger than this can cause instant paralysis. Fortunately, we live in very cold waters, so this doesn't exist here. James describes it as fresh water and salt water. What's the difference between the two? That's good. Did you know there's also a density issue? If you're in a submarine and you have your ballast tanks filled with fresh water, do you know what happens when you go into the ocean? You float. If you have it filled with salt water and you come across a spring of fresh water, what happens? You sink. The two don't mix. It says from the tongue, it's just like a fig tree producing olives, like a grapevine producing figs. Now, I've studied horticulture a little bit, and they've done some amazing things with crossbreeding. If you ever have the chance to try a banana apple, oh, I love banana apples. They're great. But, no, it looks like an apple, but it has more of a flesh like a banana. It's very good. Very good. But it's still an apple. It's not producing something completely different. You're not going to have a zucchini plant give you a carrot. What's it trying to say here? Anybody? It comes from your heart.